but I tried to pick as easy as a subject as I could to talk on. And I like going to y'all's fields and looking at what y'all do and how y'all do it. And I thought people might like to do some of the thing. Just to give you an idea of what's going on in Texas now, there's the Texas rice belt, a few counties up in the Red River. I don't think they're producing anything anymore. Whoever designed this was geographically challenged because they have the yellow east of Houston and then the northwest zone and southwest zone. I actually live and farm in Missouri, Galveston County. Let's see if I can get this to work. Right there where that little indent is right there. We're a little different than a lot of areas. We get most of our water from surface water. And there's a Brazos River empties in right there, goes through Fort Bend, Austin County, and on up just south of Fort Worth and goes all the way into New Mexico. Another major river right here is the Colorado River, empties right there and goes through Wharton, Colorado County, and goes up through Austin, turns west, and goes like that. We've been in a unique situation where we've farmed a very profitable crop the last few years called Prevent-It. It's a new variety of rice. And in Colorado River for 4 years, they did not receive water. And in on the Brazos River, we received reduced water for 2 years. This keep on going. This caused a number of wells to be built. People started drilling wells. Depending on the area, some of us can get water from irrigation wells, some can't. So, and some of the irrigation wells have to go down to 1,000 feet. So it gets expensive, especially with what's going on now. Basically, after World War I always say the federal government went in the dam building business, and they dammed up these rivers, built dams, reservoirs were built, irrigation companies were formed, a lot of times private families such as the Briscoe family had one, Winterman family, and they sold these water rights and irrigation companies to pseudo government entities. I actually serve on the board of one of them. There was 600,000 acres of rice base in Texas last year, and we farm about 190,000. We're an industry that is fighting. Irrigation water, or lack of it, has been a problem. Right in the middle of that map is Harris County, and that's the city of Houston, and they grow daily. I guess one of our biggest things that we fight is attrition from development, people coming in and buying it. I always say it's kind of like your landowner will call you, and I've had this call recently, hey, I sold 1.5 acres up there. Well, he sold it on the north end of the farm, and we're right on the coast. We spray on south winds. So it changes what you can do. Also, the cost of our water. The Brazos River, where I serve on the board, we have 387,000 acre feet of water rights, and they're senior water rights. However, we're the last straw down there. When I started working crops in the 70s for Chocolate Bio Company as their agronomist, there were 600 straws above us. Now there's 1,592 diverters on the Brazos River above us. So we're losing a lot of water. Irrigation wells are going in and like that. We have landowner-tenant relationship problems. Texas has a good high rice-based yield. But as the other slide showed, 600,000 acres of base and farming less than 200. There's a lot of payments being received, and landlords are getting them, and they, as long as this program's staying the same, they won't let us do it, farm it. Competition for irrigation and groundwater, each house uses about 1/3 of an acre foot of water. And that's a pretty good number. So all this development coming in, irrigation water is going. One of the things, and I'll touch on it a little bit or go now, as we drill these wells, especially on the coastal counties, we're having some subsidence. So now groundwater districts have been formed, subsidence districts are being formed. I say Galveston County that's on the coast The second most powerful guy in that county is the county judge. The most powerful guy is the guy that runs the subsidence district. He tells you what, when, where, and how you can pump. We have the infrastructure's been going away with the lack of acres, with all that, the dryers, other things are going away, the canal company's being sold, all that's happening, we're losing out. In fact, I had growers waiting a week to start cutting rice this year because the dryer couldn't accommodate them until somebody else stopped. High percentage of organic has gone in the last couple of years. Gulf Rice Mill contracted a little over 23,000 acres last year. ARI is about to come out with a contract, and they told me it's going to be around 3,500 this year. Gulf is already contracting, so growers are going to that real heavy. The insurance program makes it profitable for them. Conventional rice are not really profitable at the current prices, and a lot of this talk is going to center on our ratoon crop because that's the most important thing to us. On our farm, we do a lot just to make sure we can ratoon crop. That's the only way we can make it. Cultural practices. They told me I needed to talk a little bit about conservation tillage because this is that kind of conference. But if you ask my growers, what do you do? They say, oh, we're no-till farmers. Well, they're still seed bed farmers. And we went to that years ago. Dr. Linscomb is sitting in here. Whether he knows it or not, he started it because he came out with some varieties that had excellent seedling vigor and tolerance, cold tolerance, or would germinate good. And so we started because we were in a wet period. We couldn't get planted. Our conventional tillage practices, we worked the ground, get it ready to plant, it would rain. Then we was repeat till we finally got our seed in the ground. Equipment companies came out with these minimum till drills. Great Plains 2020, I don't know how many of them we used to have, but we were able to just come in, burn the field down, and do it. Now we've really adapted that a lot more. I call it fresh stale seed bed. Well, we work the ground right now. We started 2 tractors today on our farm. I had some other guys start a couple of days ago. We may put out some fertilizer now and work it in. Might not, just our P&K. But we do a lot of stale seed bed, and after that, we're through with it. And we'll plan on that, catch a rain and plan on that. We started it to get in earlier, but it has been a great conservation tool on water because we will be able to drill a large portion of that to water. The drill gets to be a real big problem. Single or double disc openers, sand, heavy clays, we have such variance. Everybody has a different opinion on how they want to do that. Our cultural practices, early March to early April, we try to plant, and early March ends up being anything after about February 25th, as we know. Last year we had the RTWG conference. I would leave there and go sit on a tractor and plant one night. And we were planting in February. It's a little early, but second crop. 7 to 10 days later, emergence. Blackland will never get 100% of it to moisture on the heavy clay soils. But if you catch a little shower in the cuts, it makes it. If you don't, you got to catch a big rain for your levees. Sand, we plant it and do not want to rain. It brings up the grass. If we can get it in and get it to moisture and it didn't rain, our herbicide bill would go way down. Command goes pre on almost everything. We're using a lot of Valor now because pigweed has come in. I'll show that. We spray, fertilize, and flood. Try to make it to PD if we can make it good enough. Sometimes we have to do a green ring shot, PD fertilizer. Something we've changed. PD plus 7 to 10, especially on the conventionals, not so much on the hybrids. We're having to put propiconazole on all our varieties. Smut is changing our world. I'll go over that. PD plus 10, 12 days. Another day at heading shot, we may put on conventional, may not, depending on how afraid we are of smut. PD 21 to 24, right when we start heading. Another shot of propiconazole, and we'll put a aoxystrobin or strobin in there. heading fertilizers on hybrids, and we're half hybrids, maybe a little more hybrids, and it's growing in. 2 weeks before harvest, we'll drain. Sometimes we'll fertilize that rice 3 to 5 days before we drain it to try to kick off the second crop. I guarantee you if we do it, it will rain and we will cut it wet because we spent that money. It seems like it's bad. We are starting to use a lot of sodium chlorate to defoliate the rice. It speeds up the combines, it does all that other stuff. Plus it gets us in there 2 to 3 days quicker to cut it. Harvest. We'll mow our stubble after we harvest most of the time. I used to mow Presidio and have pretty well stopped doing that. We'll try to cut low and do it. Somewhere around the August 5th, would stop mowing no matter what because it does delay us 2 weeks. I think on a hybrid, I don't care what the day is we cut it. I will mow it now. It's just, it does better, I think. Somewhere around August 15th, according to the Extension Service, we need to stop second crop. August 20-something is when we pretty well, people will keep on going just because it does do it. We'll fertilize the second crop and flood. Sometimes we may come in and fertilize twice, depending on how long it takes us to fertilize it. Agritain is on that, how long it takes us to get water. We hold that water on there is what we tell everybody. It gets rank and stagnant and everything else, and sometimes it disappears. And it's not supposed to, but I sure like it when it does. We'll fungicide, put a broadleaf spray in there for black-seeded weeds, bug spray, and drain 3 days before harvest. And that's the thing. Here's some pictures. That's what I mainly wanted to do. The top one up here, that's a single disc opener, and you can see this is why we went real heavy with that. And it's how we try to get our land prepared in the fall, or a fresh stale seed bed late in the winter, this time of year. Well, here's a double disc opener. It's worked. It was just starting that field, and I have several pictures of that field I'll show throughout. And, you know, it doesn't have the trench blowout that we see right up here. And we've started going away. When our command was sometimes washed down in those trenches, we'd pick up a little injury, and that's not bad. I'd take that all day long. Here's how we try to place our seed. It's sitting right there. That seed doesn't have a choice. It has to come up. My son's not real patient at all. He's a younger man. And so we had 2 drills going in here. So I get this Snapchat. And I was actually on this drill. I have a 30-foot Landau drill. And he has a 20-foot 1590 John Deere drill. And everything, time is important to us. The quicker we can cut our first crop, the more we can get to second crop. Now, are we pushing the window too much and putting our first crop in too early? Yes, sir, probably. But our second crop is baking well, so we're pushing that window. And so anyway, he said, John Deere versus the Landau. He has a 1590 for sale, and I hope they're not in John Deere people in there. That's amazing. Let's see, here's another picture. And I just went in there to a field he was doing and did that. And you can see there's where one pass I made. Got his GPS headings and put it in there. You can see my tractor tracks. I didn't have it set right behind it. But anything that we can get that seed up quicker, we're all about. Now, we only use about a half-rated jib on them. Too much, sometimes I think we get trapped, but we do that. 2016 crop, just some things. Here's that field right there I was showing you a while ago. But here's another one I was doing a burn down trial on, and I had a single disc opener, and we planted it a little early. It's a little wet, and all those trench blowouts didn't come up. You can see that right there. This is a guy he sprays his own fields. We call him Skipper. I run Sharpen in on the 90% of the fields now for pigweed. And you can see right there how it worked. I just wish it was cheaper with our command, and it is working for us. There's that field I showed y'all a while ago where I was trying to get it set. And I do like leaving, especially in the Eagle Lake area, a little residue on top. Because if I don't, something like that happens. Because eventually we'll get that cold front on that sand. It'll come through dry and it will burn. I've had rice on people I check up there, big enough to go to flood, and 3 days later you couldn't tell it was planted because that sand started blowing and cut it off. And it comes back, it's resilient. You end up with an extra herbicide and fertilizer and everything in it, and you never know it at the end, but it gets expensive. Biggest issue we have right now is kernel smut. And this is actually a variety called Dixie Belle, and it is as susceptible to it as it can be. This field here, with that type of kernel smut, had 12 ounces of propiconazole, even a little more rounded up, at PD plus 7. At heading, it had another 12 ounces with 12 ounces of aoxystrobin, and it's still like that. It has started coming in. The sales offices, Thomas Wynn's back here has one. I've asked them to go through and look, and over the years we've gone from just very few lots having a trace of smut to now we're running smut on almost every lot. And if we used any propiconazole at any point in time years ago, we didn't see this. And it's becoming more and more. It respects varieties, but not a whole lot. This variety right here, this picture came from a sales office, is 753. And I didn't check this, but I knew hybrids don't get it as bad. And I think a lot of it is their cultural practices that they don't have as much fertilizer on it for a long period of time. But this grower, I watched him from a distance, and he was pouring the end to it. And that ended up about 11%. This is Presidio, the same grower, and he uses a lot of N. And both of these are sample grade. They're bad enough that it's sample grade, and we're starting to have more and more of that problem, and it just scared us to death because we can't do anything about it. I can't remember the name of the product, but a couple of years ago, Bayer had a Section 18 on propiconazole and their oxystrobin, and I went and tried some this year. It didn't do any different. I ran some propiconazole, that Quadris Top XB that they're going to be coming out with next year, and it went out too late. The rain just came too much, and it was on some Armitol, and it did kick up 2-3%. But we have a lot of rice that's starting to show this. That's a problem we're having. There's another picture I tried to take, but you can just see the smut in my hand and everything. It's a major issue that's coming up for us and getting worse and worse. Ratoon crop, and I tried to take some pictures of some dates. This is Presidio on the 19th of September. As I say, everything we do for our crop, we consider second crop. When we drain it, we're looking at trying to get in there to get our ratoon crop in as early as we can and do it. It's become as important to us as first crop. First crop, we do good to break even. This is how we have to make our money. Some of the things we do, Doctor, talk about this. We try to cut low. If we're not going to flail mow, we do want to cut it as low as possible. Dr. Fred Turner did some work years ago, and it was some good work. I cut a bunch of samples for him where he tried to predict the second crop yields going by what he called the TNC, or total non-structured carbohydrates in the plant. And he came up, and this is where we started that mowing business, that we need to mow at somewhere around 9 inches. We would cut samples of different levels of the plant, and he would analyze it for that. And he got a really good correlation. Weather, other stuff, your cultural practices, your water, everything is going to affect that. But that's why we start fertilizing on a heading shot. That's why we tend to put a late shot that flares our smut sometimes to try to bring our second crop back as early and as possible as we can. Straw choppers on your combines, I know it slows you down. We salt a lot of them. just to try to get ourselves in there chop it up a little better, do all those sort of things. Try to keep the carts out of the field as much as possible. They just come in and pick you up on the ends or whatever. So bigger headers, spend more money, make John Deere and Case happy. We'll flail mow it. And here's a good picture I took just to show. Right in the center of a flail mower, you always miss. And this is a couple of weeks after being flail mowed. And you can see that rice is already headed. And Cercospora and everything else is going crazy on it. And it will just blank out and look terrible. This other stuff being so much more consistent is much better. There's this nice sideway view. Here's the field about September 9th. This is year before last. We're fine with this. It's a race because our days are getting shorter, and we try to get as much in as we can and as far along as we can. This is a field of ours that had a hog stand right here. Deer stand we put out in the field hog, and Mo's going to show this field later on. This is one where the plant hoppers hit. That's what's starting right there. But I'd gone up there and I just got that picture. Cut with auto steer to try to eliminate tracks. This is in early September of that year, so we try to do everything as early as we can to get it going. Mo asked me to throw this picture in yet last night, so we're having a problem with what's called a channel apple snail. But somebody dumped them in our canal from their aquarium 10, 12 years ago is what they speculate.
Yeah, I was going to mention it just didn't occur.
It just didn't occur. It's native to Asia. After it happened, they started coming in our rice fields. Somebody asked me, did they hurt? I said, yeah, when somebody throws that at you, it hurts if they hit you. They will literally get as big as a tennis ball. And so for a while, it was just, okay, there's one. I saw some today. You might say they're moving at a snail's pace. But they get in these fields, and now it's not funny anymore. Here's a levee on some second crop. Well, they're just boring through levees like you can't believe. So, okay, they're boring through levees. Now we got canals 15 foot deep with 10 foot banks on either side, and guess what? So we don't know what's going to happen on this. Something's got to happen. They're starting to become a problem, and I don't know what else to do on it. And here I'm going to start this how do we start this video here? Just press a button? I have a video here if I could, but it's on our second crop. Let me see, I can get over there and start that thing.
Let's see. I'm not sure how to start it. Is anyone done?
Just click on it, see what it does.
Let me click on it. No.
Go back. Go back.
Yeah. Let me right there.
Get up on it, put the air up on it, just make it work.
There you go.
There you go. And this is, yeah, forgive me, I'm over 30, and I'm trying to cut and do that at the same time. But this is just what our growers are doing on second crop. And that's pretty accurate. And we cut low. This is green rice going to ARI, so we let it drop down. Milling doesn't matter a whole lot on that. But we're saying a lot of growers are drying in the 30s on second crop. There's hybrids going well into the 40s. And we manage extensively for that, and that's kind of what we have to do.
So what you cut on the first crop?
That's Presidio.
Yeah.
We dried a little over 8,000 pounds. A lot of times, that particular farm, when we redid it, we had a little over 13,000 pound average in this Presidio. But it's managing for the second crop. As much
And
as
that's
anything.
barrels.
And that's barrels right there. Yeah.
Cliff, what impact you find that soybean pull rate, if any, on second crop?
None.
No
No.
impact whatsoever?
You can't tell once you get 6 inches down on the canopy, you can't tell you sprayed it.
How many many pounds you using sodium chloride?
We'll use it just on first crop. Occasionally
What's
we'll,
the rate though?
No,
3 quarts.
3 quarts, yeah.
Yeah. 3 quarts of the 4 pound material.
there you go.
6 pound material, I'm sorry. 6.
Okay, yeah.
It's 6, yeah.
3 quarts, 6 pounds.
You don't have to go rampant on it. For one thing, I think I know we speed up our harvest. From a crop consultant, the last thing I want to do is have to be responsible for putting out the sodium chlorate. It's a dozen more trips, you've got to time this, you're trying to get the ground dry, and the sodium chlorate out 3-4 days beforehand, so you don't.
That's the window. Like,
You got a window there.
You don't try to get it.
Yes.
You want to get, if you put it out knowing within 3 days, 4 days of harvest, hopefully not going more than about.
Yeah, and you're looking at big to-dos every day to see the weather. But the other thing you're doing, once you do it for a grower, I mean, hybrids, any variety, go back there and do it, because these combines have gotten so expensive and they're trying to speed up their efficiency. A lot of times at the dryers, they are charging according to moisture now. So people are telling me, get it out. And you just shake your head. You don't want to. But we do it. I tell them, I'm doing your first field for you, and then the man on the combine is making the decision on the next one. Because you got 2 combines going and they're getting 70 acres a day, stay 3 days ahead of yourself.
You find it getting cut costs on drying a little bit by getting that moisture.
You
out
cut
of the
cost on drying big time.
Yeah.
And a large percentage of our rice, or places our rice, goes to, on a green rice contract, they don't care about the milling, they're gonna parball it. So on those, we let it go down to 12% before we start cutting. Because
Yeah.
milling doesn't matter. On others, one of my largest growers this year, and it was 100% 745. And we salted every acre, and he had the best milling yields he's ever had. But he was there timely, and I think you actually back off on the combines a little bit and do a little better job.
How much nitrogen are you putting ahead of main crop drain, set that second crop up?
100 pounds of urea, just because. Randy, I had some pictures. I didn't throw them in here. And it works 3-4 days beforehand. You can tell just unreal how much it works. But it's got to be a farmer that's stout, because if it rains and you rut it out, your second crop's limited anyway. But it does work. It's a well-drained field. I tell everybody, let's do it 25-30% of your acres.
That's 100 pounds right before.
3 days before you drain. You're going to be impressed. You will. I like to see second crop tillers when we're cutting first crop. I don't care if we cut them off, we're going to mow them off anyway. And we're mowing lower and lower. Earlier it gets, the lower we're mowing. We're dropping down more and more.
So you salting and putting out fertilizer at the same time.
I'll put out fertilizer, wait 3 days, drain, wait 9 days and salt. Salt about 4 or 5 days, 3 to 5 days before we cut. And we only salt 2 or 3 days ahead of the combine. It's a coordinated thing.
How much total N will you have on that second crop, not counting that N on that main crop drain?
If I do that in on there, I'll come back with 125, 150 pounds more with agrotane on it pre-flood. If I don't, I end up with over 100 every time.
Will you split that and go into an anaerobic situation like after you flooded?
If I can put it all out at once, if it's a good field with good water and we can do it all at once, I'm all for it. That being said, 80% of the time we split it. There's never a perfect world. It's no doubt in my mind it works as well all at one time, but getting the water, getting everything coordinated, and then you get it all out, get a 6-inch rain, you say, okay, I'm gonna put it out again. It's a risk management tool more than anything.